Right, so hello, welcome back to the channel. And after watching the North London derby at the weekend, surely it's got to be the best derby in England? Surely. I'm also not going to entertain the fact that some people will say, well, what about being the best in Britain? No, it's the Old Firm. I mean, I'm not someone who's a massive Old Firm fan, but I know that that's the best rivalry within the UK. It's simple. But yeah, there's plenty of derbies, plenty of rivalries within English football, and I'm going to be looking at a fair few of them and deciding which one is the best rivalry and derby in English football. But before I get into that, if you could share the video and subscribe, it helps the channel out immensely. We're trying to hit 250 subs as soon as possible, and every little helps with that. The support on the channel recently has been amazing, so thank you all very much for that, and yeah, let's get back into it. I really do think that there's a difference between a rivalry and a derby, and I think that gets mixed up quite a lot of the time. And I'm going to use Manchester United as an example because there's two games that stand out for me, which they get called derbies, but they're not derbies. A derby is defined basically by a team that is close to another team, and then that's your derby. The likes of Hibs and Hearts, Arsenal, Tottenham, Rangers, Celtic, Man United and Man City. Something that has always irked me, especially when I see it on Sky, TNT Sports, whatever, the BBC Match of the Day, is when they talk about the derby of Liverpool and Man United, or Man United and Leeds, and then especially with the London clubs, the London derbies, you get one derby, you don't have multiple, because Tottenham Crystal Palace isn't a derby. It could be a rivalry, sure, because they're both London-based clubs, but to call Chelsea versus any other club in London other than Fulham a derby, it doesn't count. So, in terms of derbies and rivalries, Arsenal-Tottenham's probably at the top of the table. And I know the Man United fans will probably see this and say, well, what about the ones against Man City and Liverpool? I mean, we're the biggest club in England, Liverpool probably the second biggest club in England, and Man City are the best team in the world, so why are we not 1 and 2? Well, I'll give you some reasons. Man City and Liverpool beat you constantly, and they don't only just beat you, they beat you bad. We'll start with Man City. I mean, you lost 6-3. Two players scored hat-tricks against you at the Etihad last year. Two players scored a hat-trick against Man United. And usually, when you beat a Man City, and yes, you'll get the odd win here and there, it's usually by a goal, maybe two. Man City can thrash Man United, but Man United can't thrash Man City currently. And then we look at the Liverpool rivalry, not derby, rivalry. They won 7-0 at Anfield last year. 7-0. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure I've seen somewhere in the past 6 derbies or something like that, the aggregate score is about 40-4. So how is that a rivalry? I do feel though that if you're talking about fan bases, the best derby would be Newcastle v Sunderland, but there's a few problems. The fact that they've not played against each other since about 2017, it doesn't bode well, because if you're not playing against each other, you can't be considered the best in that regard. As well as that, Sunderland won the last 3 or 4 derbies about 3-0 every single time, and Newcastle were looking pathetic. But now that Newcastle have had that steroid injection money boost, and Sunderland have been in League One, now the Championship, even if they were to get promoted, Sunderland, it's a mauling, and it's such a one-sided game that it's not a good derby. It's not competitive in any way, shape or form. Another derby that falls under that category would be the Merseyside derby. I mean, I really want to say that Liverpool-Everton is one of the best derbies in the country, and it properly is in terms of atmosphere, pure hatred. It is a proper derby, but at the same time, Everton don't beat Liverpool, especially right now. I've never seen a bigger gulf in class between Liverpool and Everton in my lifetime. And whenever they play, yes, I know Everton won it during COVID at Anfield, but let's be honest, when was the last time you've properly seen a good Everton performance against Liverpool where they get rewarded, or that they can go 3 or 4 undefeated without Liverpool eventually beating them. It's so one-sided. In a very similar way that the Birmingham derby, of course Birmingham v Aston Villa, again, it would just be so one-sided. I mean, last time we seen it was in the Championship when Jack Grealish got punched. That was stupid. I mean, he went on to score the winner as well, so a fairy tale ending for that one. But at the exact same time, Birmingham, if they ever came up, because Aston Villa aren't getting relegated anytime soon, it's not going to be competitive. And the fans are great, but the match wouldn't be. You've also got the Lancashire derby in Burnley and Blackburn, and look, that is a good game, and the fans are brilliant. It's actually a lot more intense than I ever thought. When I went to uni, I met a few Blackburn fans and some Burnley fans, and I didn't really know a lot about it, but now I know an awful lot more about it. And yeah, it's a proper good rivalry, but there's a lack of class and quality in the derby that I don't think can put it in the upper echelons for them. Then, as well as that, you've got the likes of West Ham and Millwall, proper nutters of fans. But again, West Ham would just batter Millwall, but that's not to say that the West Ham fans would batter the Millwall fans. I think that would be a lot more even than the football game. Then finally, the weirdest derby, and honest to God, I've never understood how it's a derby and how the hatred between the fans actually exists. It's Brighton and Crystal Palace. You're over an hour's commute away. How can that be a derby? One's in London, one's in Brighton. I mean, they're not even close to each other. But hey-ho, outside of the North London derby, it's probably the most competitive fixture, and the fans are great on both sides, so yeah, it's a very good derby, but it's so weird, man. The weekend's game between Arsenal and Tottenham, it was superb. There was brilliant moments all over the pitch, and it's got to be the most entertaining game of the season, surely. I mean, that first goal, which is Saka's goal, I've said for so long that Romero is mince, and look, I'll get to the penalty decision later on, but it's rash. It's what Gary Neville said on commentary. Why are you just sticking your leg out aimlessly? I mean, of course that's going to happen. It could have gone anywhere, and it goes in the back of the net. And then they really should have been 2-0 because Maddison loses the ball on the edge of the box, and Jesus just blazes it over. And look, he will never be a proper number 9 because he's not got any composure in front of goal. Brennan Johnson has a shot that is sure to be going in before a wonder save from Raya, and Ramsdale just clapping from the bench. It's like, mate, he knows the cameras are on him to look a good sport. You know you've lost your place now as well, and you need to go in January. But that was until Bukayo Saka got spun by James Maddison, who took it personally for him doing his dart celebration, left him in the dust, and then Heung-min Son slots it in far post past the 3 defenders, going in 1-0 at the break. A few minutes go by in the second half. I'll probably criticise Romero more than anyone else, but I think that penalty is incredibly harsh. When you are lunging forward towards a ball, I mean, where are you supposed to put your hands naturally? It's a 50-50. I don't see how it could have been a penalty. I do kind of get how it's a penalty, but I wouldn't have given it. It's a tough one, and Saka coolly puts it down the middle. That's where this Arsenal team, it's way too inexperienced. They got too high. Jorginho gets caught on the ball. No defenders around him either, which I thought was very bizarre. And then Maddison skips on by, passes it to Son. I have not seen away end limbs like that in a long time. I've not seen it in ages in the Premier League. So the Tottenham fans were going mental after that went in. I mean, of course you would, because you just conceded and then you've just scored in the matter of a minute, and it was great to see. And speaking of fans, Arsenal fans really don't help themselves because they proclaim that they're back and that the Emirates is a fortress and it's so loud and noisy. And look, it gets loud and noisy when they're up. And it's very easy to play when you're up, when you're playing well, you're winning, it's going great. But when adversity comes in and you can see the goal, it's quieter than when the stadium was silent at COVID. I mean, there is no atmosphere from the Arsenal fans when things are not going well. It wasn't even a negative atmosphere, it was just flat. And the game ends 2-2, an entertaining game. I mean, well coached. Ange Postecoglou is a brilliant manager, which I have said many times before on an old video, which you should go and watch, because I also said they should get Brendan Johnson, sell Kane, get in some centre-backs, a left-back, a goalkeeper. They've done all that, and they look rejuvenated. So, Daniel Levy definitely watched that, and Arteta, he just needs to know how to carry out these big games, because I know he's won the FA Cup with Arsenal and he kind of mounted a title challenge last year, but he's again a bit inexperienced and just needs to calm things down, especially himself on the touchline. He gets way too animated, especially next to Postecoglou, who looks as cool as a cucumber. But the reason I do think that this is truly the best derby and rivalry within the Premier League is because since the 15-16 season, I mean, Tottenham have won 5 games, Arsenal have won 6 games, and they've drawn 6 games. It's constantly a battle, and you genuinely don't know who's going to win, while still having entertaining and exciting games. Hence why I believe that the North London derby is the best derby and rivalry within the English game at this minute in time. That could all change if Sunderland come back up and they suddenly start playing well, because the Time Wear derby is brilliant. But then, as well as that, if Birmingham can get themselves up, who knows? And there's so many. And for rivalries, I mean, Liverpool, Man United, if you could get back to being fierce rivals as opposed to just, they're okay, that would be great from a viewing perspective. Let me know what you guys think is the best rivalry or derby in the English game in the comments below. If you would like, share and subscribe. As I said, we're trying to hit 250 subs as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, cheers.